The city of Waterford lies in a valley. We've high ground on either side, and that means it's very sheltered, very protected for shipping. Another key feature as to why the Vikings wanted to settle here is 3 very big rivers drain into Waterford Harbour, the Nore, the Shore and the Barrow. Between them, these 3 rivers drain or access 1/5 of Ireland's landmass. If you control access to Waterford Harbour, you control access to 1/5 of the landmass of Ireland.
You see, this was a town of traders. I mean, I get sick when I see the quay now. I mean, the quay was an absolute hive of activity. Bear in mind that you had the docks, and the docks were worked. They really were worked.
And even the ships coming up and down, you'd miss those on the river. Sailors coming in and out.
There was a man called Jackie Lennon, and he used to splice the rope for the lift.
There was lots of everything there that came in. There was steel, timber, whatever you like.
Jackie became too old. We couldn't get anybody else. It was a skill that was gone.
They were the hardest working men that were ever employed anywhere. It was the next thing to slave labour. And that's a fact.
Oh yeah, really hard to go out at maybe 10 o'clock at night and work till 4 and 5 in the morning.
We'd be on the ships. There was one gang, a number 1 gang and number 2 gang. My father was on one of the gangs. And they'd be employed for the first ship in the harbour. The second ship, the second gang. But the third ship would come up, we'd get a job on the warehouse gang. That's what we were, all the younger lads. My brother and a few more of us.
The coal used to come in, you see, and they'd be the same as you see in the old pictures. There'd be fellas brought down to the docks. You'd have to queue up in the morning when the boat had come in. There could be 40 people down looking for a job. And whoever was picked then, they were all picked out. The other fellas had to go away. And what they started was, you had to bring your shovel, and it was a number 10 shovel they had.
I mean, to be down in the hold of a ship and shoveling coal with what they call a number 10 shovel, which would be about that width, and we're at this all day, back-breaking work. Back-breaking work. To me, it was the hardest work I ever see being done anywhere.
And they started at the top of the coal, and they had to dig down until they got to what they call, when they got down it made it easy when they got to the ceiling, which was down to the bottom where you could dig it. But physically digging the coal from the top was terrible hard work.
They used to have the old truck with the steel wheels. I remember as a child not being able to lift them, and they would take half a ton. They'd bring it up to the ship, and by ropes they'd load the ship.
And there was a big bucket then used to come in, you see, and they'd fill the bucket, and the stevedore then would bring it up and lob it into a car or a lorry or whatever.
The tradition at that time was the captain of the ship, when the ship was empty, he'd have a bottle of whiskey, whatever, to be stops. And all the people worked on the ship drank the toast to the captain before he left. The ship left then on the next tide always, whatever tide it was that they got, they ended up going away. And often we asked the question, for example, where did the sailors like to go, you know, Cork or Dublin or Galway? We hated Waterford. We said, why? We never got an overnight stay in Waterford. As soon as we came in, we were unloaded and we were gone again.
I remember a great story some of the older guys told me about a guy named Johnny Bergen. He used to pull these trucks, and another guy behind him pushing, and the wheel fell off, and it was a wooden jetty at the time. And he said, Johnny, he says, the wheel has fallen off. He says, I said, don't mind, Mick. He says, we'll pick it up on the way back.
I used to actually go off down with some of the lads to be there down to get chocolate crumb on the quay, and you're supposed to be back for a lesson.
The chocolate crumb, oh God, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And there could have been rats, we could have got boils, disease or beels, disease, whatever it's called. We'd pick it up, put it into paper, bring it home, we'd eat it.
And there was a ferry at the time that used to go over and back from the Ferrybank side shore to the Waterford shore.
And the ferry boat would pull in, and the boat club had a place like where the boat would dock over Ferrybank end.
that the guys that built the club over there the first day, they knew the run of the tides. They weren't fools. They saw that there was not a build-up of mud over there. It was quite hard packed, in fact.
Grandad Hughes worked on the Port Lorriga, the mud boat. And he brought me up there, up and down.
But when Belferry built its wharf, it changed the run of the tide. Do you remember that, Tony?
That's right, yeah.
It changed the run of the tide and it began to bank the mud up on our slip. So we couldn't stay there.
Down past the island, just you're supposed to go down further, but just tip it out. And coming back, he let me ring the bell. Coming up the quays, up by the Adelphi.
English people used to come on into Rosslare Harbour, and they would stay in Waterford City and then go on to Kerry. So they'd stay a night or two in Waterford on the way to Kerry and a night or two in Waterford on the way back.
They used to say there then when the mud, they were the only boat that sailed where the men were home for their dinner.
And they would, I remember one family had a standard poodle, and the poodle used to put his paws up. He would sleep in the car, but then he would be brought into the hotel, and he'd put his paws up on the wash-hand basin, and then he used to clean his teeth. He had a toothbrush and toothpaste, and like in 1950s, early 60s in Waterford, you didn't see things like that.
For anybody over 30 years of age in Waterford, the Clyde Shipping Company was an institution.
Well, one of my first memories would be the Great Western boat or ship coming in from England, and it would come in early in the morning, and all the people would come up along the quay, and breakfast when all the hotels was a very big section of the business, and a room would be allocated, and they would go shopping because you couldn't buy nylons in England. There was a lot of stuff that you couldn't buy in England that you could buy in Ireland.
Then you had the Tusker, you had the Rockabill, the Great Western.
Great Western, yeah.
Which, back in those days, you had cattle on it, and you also had passengers going to Liverpool.
That's right.
And that's gone.
So they would just come over for the day, and then in the evening they would pack up the stuff, but they would put nylons around them and tie a belt over it, and maybe wear 2 coats, but it was, and then they went back to England.
Now there could be maybe 2,000 cattle go up the quay. Do you understand what I mean? That they'd hunt them down to the Learys, then they'd kind of weigh them. They'd bring them down to the weighbridge and weigh them, and they'd put them on board the ships.
I can remember Beachy O'Brien from Rice Park. He worked on the cattle board, and he'd have a habit of saying, and he'd go up the road. He worked on the cattle board, and when he'd have the few drinks in him, that's where he'd be. Beachy O'Brien, yeah, famous character. And Paddy Grant, another one. Paddy was great. And they were all good drinking men, they used to go into Jordans.
There was a bullock that ran out of it, one got out of it, what they ran in to show us, jumped through the window.
It was not unusual in court to be told, well, I'll let you off, provided you go to England. You know, which sounds a bit ridiculous now, but it did happen, and it was quite common in district courts.
I used to go down there on a Thursday evening with my grandfather after school, and I used to sit on the steps there to watch him loading the Great Western. It used to go out from there.
And there wouldn't be a family in Waterford that I know that didn't have somebody belong to them in England. And I'm talking about when I was 13 or 14 or 15. I know fellas of my age went across at 15 or 16, never came back.
And some of the ships that had these cargoes, just to take general cargo, they also took passengers and took cattle as well, you know. You had a few very famous ships called the Rockabill and the Tusker with the Clyde Shipping Company, and they had a number of passenger berths. I think the Tusker had 6 and the Rockabill had about 10. So, you know, there would be people coming over and back, and that's how my parents came here. They came here on the Rockabill, you know. That's the last of the, and the guys used to slag him about coming over the bridge. He said, I never came over the bridge. He says, I came up the river.